The sun was hot and cruel that day. Shining down on the dusty street of the human trade market, people moved quickly, walking past broken signs and dirty buildings. Vendors shouted their prices, robots beeped, and engines roared in the distance. But no one noticed the small alien girl standing at the edge of the market. She looked thin and tired, her skin pale with patches of dirt. Her eyes were big and yellow, filled with fear and hunger. She held something close to her chest, wrapped. In a torn gray blanket, it was her baby sister, weak and silent. Too tired to cry anymore, Elari was the alien girl's name. She was no older than 10 human years, but her eyes looked older. Life had not been kind to her. She had no parents, no food, no home, just her sister and her promise to protect her. Elari slowly walked through the crowd, her bare feet hurting. With every step, she stopped at a small milk stall, where a human man with a white apron stood. He was counting credits and didn't look up at first. Elari waited, her body shaking from hunger, then spoke in a soft voice, "Just milk for my sister, please. I'll pay you back when I'm grown," she whispered. The man finally looked at her, his face turning cold. "What did you say?" he asked, raising his eyebrow. Elari repeated her words, still holding her baby sister close. She reached out her small hand, hoping for a drop of milk. The man laughed loudly. People around the stall turned to look. Some even chuckled. "Pay me back when you're grown." "Get lost, alien beggar," he snapped. He waved his hand to shoo her away like an insect. Elari stepped back, her face red with shame. She didn't cry, not because she wasn't hurt. She didn't cry because her sister needed her to stay strong. She turned and slowly walked away, her shoulders shaking. Most people looked away. Some saw her, but they acted like they didn't. To them, she was just another starving alien child. Nothing special, but one man saw everything. His name was Jace, a former human soldier who now ran a small food cart near the edge of the market. He had seen many sad things during the war. But this felt different. Jace watched as Elari limped away, her tiny form disappearing behind old crates. He didn't understand why. But the girl's words stayed in his head. "Just milk for my sister, please." That voice, so soft, so full of pain, cut through all the noise around him. He left his cart for a moment and followed her at a distance. He saw her slip through a crack in a wall near the junkyard, curious and careful. He moved closer and peeked through the gap. What he saw made his chest tighten. Behind the wall was a small, broken shelter made of scrap metal and cloth. Inside were 5 more alien children, younger than Elari. They were sitting on the floor, weak and hungry. Elari gave her baby sister a small piece of dry bread, then gave the rest to the others. She kept nothing for herself. Jay stood frozen. He had seen soldiers cry in battle. He had seen people lose everything. But he had never seen a child be this brave, this selfless. He went back to his cart quickly and packed some warm soup, bread, and water. When he returned, Elari was sitting alone, her head resting on her sister's blanket. He stepped forward and offered the food. At first, she shook her head, her pride stopping her, but the baby made a soft, weak sound. Elari looked at the food again, then at Jace. Slowly, she took the cup of soup and fed her sister first. Then she gave the bread to the others. Only after everyone else had eaten, she took a sip of water. Jace didn't speak, and neither did she. But something unspoken passed between them. Trust, maybe, or something close to it. As the sun began to set, Jace stood up to leave. He looked at Elari one more time and nodded. She nodded back, silent but thankful, that night. As Jace lay in his bed, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the girl's words, "Just milk for my sister." He had heard gunfire and screams, but that whisper echoed louder than anything else. And he knew deep inside, this was not the end. It was just the beginning. The next morning. The sun rose over the broken roofs and metal scraps of the lower city. The air smelled of smoke and old oil, and the wind carried dust into every corner. Jace returned to the market early, a tease, but his eyes kept glancing toward the junkyard wall. He couldn't forget the girl's quiet face, or how she gave her food to the others first. He had seen many things after the war. People hurting each other for food, aliens abandoned on cold streets. But something about Ellery, her silence, her strength, touched something deeper in him. He packed food again, this time more than before. A large jug of water, some clean bread, and warm broth. He even found a small blanket in a storage box. He left his cart to his old friend Ruck and walked quickly back to the same alley Ellery was. There, sitting with her back against the wall, her baby sister lay in her lap, eyes half open, too tired to cry. Ellery looked up when she saw Jace, but she didn't speak. She didn't run either. Jace knelt down and opened the bag. He handed her a cup of warm broth, and she gently lifted her sister and helped her drink. Tiny drops of soup touched the baby's dry lips, and she moved weakly. That small movement made Ellery smile for the first time. Even if only a little, the other children peeked out from behind metal sheets. Jace saw their small eyes and dirty hands. Some crawled closer when they smelled the food. Jace gave each one bread and water. Watching their faces light up, he didn't ask questions. Not yet. He just sat beside them, listening to the wind and the soft chewing sounds. For a moment, the junkyard was quiet. It almost felt safe. Finally, Ellery spoke. "Why do you help us?" she asked in her soft voice. Jace didn't answer right away. He looked at the baby in her arms and said, "Because someone has to." Ellery looked down at the child and nodded. She didn't thank him, not with words, but her eyes showed it. Jace could see the pain in them, but also something more, a fire that refused to die. As the children ate, Jace learned their names slowly, carefully. One girl was named Rena, with silver spots on her skin. Another was Tor, a boy who used to have parents before the patrols took them away. They all had stories, but none of them spoke about the past for long. Ellery was the oldest, the one who made sure everyone got food. She was the one who stayed awake when the others slept. She checked the roof, guarded the small space they called home. And when the baby cried at night, Ellery was there, holding her, whispering songs in a language Jace didn't know. Jace visited them every day after that. Each time, he brought food, clean clothes, and whatever he could find. He never asked for anything in return. He just listened, fixed holes in the wall, and helped them laugh again. But the city was not kind. The zone where Ellery lived was called the No Zone. It was a place where no help was allowed, no food, no medicine, no kindness. The Trade Council had passed laws. Humans could not give aid to low-value aliens. Anyone caught could lose their business license or worse. Jace knew the risks. Ruck warned him again and again. "They're watching, Jace," he said. "You can't save everyone." But Jace looked at the bruises on Ellery's arms, the way the baby still coughed at night. And he answered, "Maybe not everyone, but maybe I can save these few." One night, a patrol drone passed over the junkyard. Ellery heard the humming and quickly hid the children. Jace stood outside, pretending he was just walking by. The drone hovered, scanned the area, then flew off. That night, Jace made a decision. This small shelter wasn't enough. He needed to find them a better place. A hidden place where no drone, no soldier, no law could find them. But Ellery didn't know that yet. She only saw the tired human man bringing food every day. The man who didn't laugh when she begged. The man who looked at her not with pity, but with respect. One evening, as the stars appeared in the dark sky, Ellery sat beside Jace and whispered, "My sister smiled today." Jace looked down at the Baby, now sleeping quietly in her arms, he smiled too. That's worth everything, he said, and though no one else saw it. In that broken junkyard full of forgotten children, a new light was starting to grow, not from the stars above, but from a promise between one human and one starving alien girl. A promise stronger than fear, stronger than law. A promise made not with words, but with actions. A week had passed since Jace first gave food to Ilari and her sister. Each day, he returned with more: warm soup, clean water, soft clothes, and small things like a flashlight or medicine. He fixed holes in their metal roof, made it cleaner. Space for the baby to sleep. Ilari didn't ask for anything anymore. She only watched him work, her eyes always serious. She didn't smile much, but when she did, it was real. And it gave Jace the strength to return, even when he was tired or scared. But kindness in the No Zone was not welcome. The No Zone was a place built on silence and control. It was where aliens were dumped when no one wanted them, a place where even hope was punished. The Trade Council had rules, strong rules, cruel. Rules: no aid to alien children, no shelter without permits, no contact without permission. And now someone had seen Jace. A man named Farlane, council enforcer, walked up to Jace's food stall one morning. He wore a silver badge and black gloves. His voice was smooth but cold. "You've been visiting the junkyard every day," Farlan said. "Why?" Jace tried to act calm. "Scrap hunting," he replied. "I collect broken tech sometimes." Farlan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We know you're feeding the aliens," he said quietly. "Don't lie again." Jace stayed silent. He knew what came next. "You'll lose your vendor license if you don't stop." Farlan warned. "Next time, we won't just talk." Jace didn't answer. He just packed up his stall and walked away. His hands were shaking, but his mind was clear. He had made his choice days ago. That night, he didn't go straight to the junkyard. Instead, he met with an old friend, Lena, a nurse who once served with him during the war. She still worked at the medical outpost and hated the council as much as he did. "I need antibiotics," Jace said. "For a baby?" Lena looked worried. "Is this for one of the No Zone kids?" she asked. Jace nodded. She sighed, then handed him a small kit. "You didn't get this from me," she said. He thanked her and left quickly. By the time he reached the junkyard, the children were asleep. Ilari sat by the fire, her arms around. Her sister, the baby, was coughing, weak again. Jace knelt beside her and showed her the medicine. Ilari's eyes went wide with surprise. She didn't ask how he got it. She just whispered, "Thank you," and helped him give it to the baby. They sat quietly after, watching the fire crackle. The stars above them looked peaceful, but inside Jace's heart, a storm was growing. The next day, trouble came fast when Jace returned to his food stall. It was gone, the table broken, the canopy burned. A sign painted in red, "Traitor to Earth." Jace stared at it for a long time. He didn't speak, didn't shout, he just walked away. He had lost everything now: his job, his license, even his home. But deep down, he felt lighter. No more hiding, no more pretending. That night, he went to the junkyard and told Ilari everything. She listened quietly, her hands shaking as she held her sister. "Are you scared?" she asked him. Jace smiled sadly. "Yes," he said, "but I won't leave you." Ilari looked down, then reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small metal ring with alien symbols. "My mother gave this to me," she said, before she disappeared. She placed the ring in Jace's hand. "You can have it now," she whispered. Jace didn't know what to say. That small ring meant more than gold, more than money. It was trust. Later that night, as they sat around the fire with the other children, Jace spoke. "We can't stay here much longer," he said. "There, watching, but I know a place outside the city." In the hills, where no one will find us. The children stared at him, unsure. Ilari didn't speak for a while. Then she looked at her baby sister, now sleeping peacefully. We'll go, she said. If you lead, Jace nodded. And the next morning, they began to prepare. They would leave behind the junkyard, the dust, the broken walls. They would take nothing but their hopes, their courage, and each other. But Jace knew the city would not let them go easily. The council feared compassion more than guns. And soon the hunt would begin. Jace worked through the night. He moved quietly through the shadows, gathering tools, blankets, and whatever food he could find. His hands were rough, his body sore. But his heart felt strong. He had lost his stall, his home, and his safety, but he had not lost his purpose. Far beyond the city, deep in the hills, was an old war shelter. He had found it years ago during patrol. Now it would become their new home. In the early light, he returned to the junkyard. Ilari and the other children were already waiting, each one holding a small bag or blanket. Even the baby seemed quiet and calm, as if she knew a change was coming. Ilari looked at Jace with her usual serious eyes. "We're ready," she said softly. Jace nodded and led them through hidden paths behind the old factories. They moved like shadows, avoiding drones and patrols. When the children got tired, he carried them one by one. It took hours, but finally they reached a hidden cave in the hills. Behind a wall of vines was the shelter, old, dusty, but safe. Jace opened the door with a worn code. Inside were metal beds, a working water pipe, and even an old solar heater. The children's eyes lit up. To them, it felt like a castle, a place without fear. Without cold nights and hunger, Ilari walked slowly inside. Holding her baby sister close, she looked around and whispered, "It's warm." Jace smiled. "Yes," he replied, "and it's yours now, over the next few days." They cleaned the shelter together. Jace taught the children how to cook simple meals and fix small machines. He turned an old screen into a light board and taught them how to write in Human Basic. Even the younger ones began to laugh again, their voices echoing through the walls like music. Ilari worked harder than anyone. She helped prepare food, cleaned the sleeping areas, and watched over the younger ones like a mother. But something inside her was still closed, quiet, guarded. One night, Jace found her sitting alone outside the shelter, looking at the stars. He sat beside her and said nothing for a while. The sky above them was wide and endless, a sea of stars that stretched forever. "My mother used to say, 'The stars are our ancestors,'" Ilari said suddenly. "She said they watch over us." Jace looked up and nodded. "My father told me the stars were just light from far away," he replied, "but I think your mother was right." Ilari turned her head slowly. "You're not like the others," she said. "Most humans laugh at us, call us things, throw rocks." "I've seen too much to laugh," Jace said. "I fought in the war, saw cities fall, people die, but what hurt me most was watching children cry and no one doing anything." Ilari was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her old coat and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. She opened it slowly, showing a carved stone, a smooth blue gem with symbols etched into it. "This was from my father," she said. "It's the only thing I have left from him." She placed it in Jace's hand. "Now, I want you to keep it." Jace looked at her, surprised. "This belongs to you," he said. Ilari shook her head. "It means trust in my language," she whispered. "I want to trust you." Jace closed his hand around the stone, feeling its weight. A strange feeling rose in his chest, like honor and guilt and hope all mixed together. He had never asked for her trust, but now he held it, and he knew he would protect it, no matter what. As the days passed, the shelter became more than a hiding place. It became a home. The children painted stars on the walls, played games, and listened to Jace tell old war stories. Ilari smiled more often now. She even laughed once when Jace burned a pot of soup. Her baby sister, now stronger, crawled across the floor and reached for Jace's hand. He let her hold his finger, and she giggled. But outside the hills, danger still waited. The Trade Council had not forgotten. Farlon had placed a bounty on Jace's head. He wanted the children found. The traitor punished. One evening, a drone passed close to the hillside. Ilari saw it and warned Jace. They covered the shelter entrance with extra vines and powered down all lights. The drone hovered for a moment, then flew away. But Jace knew it would return, and next time, it wouldn't be alone that night. He sat near the sleeping children, watching their peaceful faces. He thought of the war again, of everything he lost. And now, what he had found, not soldiers, not weapons, not medals, but something better, a family, a chance to be a human worth remembering. A heart beating not for war, but for life, for kindness, for hope. Under a sky full of stars, Jace made a new vow. He would never let them be taken again. The morning was too quiet. The wind did not blow. The birds did not sing. And even the air felt heavy. Jace stood outside the shelter, staring at the hills. Something inside him felt wrong, like the sky was warning him. Inside, Ilari was helping the younger children eat breakfast. Her baby sister was smiling, her cheeks finally full. The others were drawing shapes on the wall with chalk Jace had brought days ago. It felt like peace, like a home. But peace doesn't last long in places built on secrets, far below the hills. In the city, Farlon stood in front of a large screen. It showed a heat map, tiny glowing shapes moving inside the hillside. He narrowed his eyes. They're hiding there. He said, "Send the patrol and tell them no survivors back at the shelter." Jace checked the perimeter again. Motion sensors he had placed were working. Nothing nearby, no signals. Still, his heart kept beating faster. He walked inside and looked at Ilari. "Get the bags ready, just in case," he said quietly. Ilari didn't ask why. She trusted him now, fully. The children packed their few things quickly. Warm clothes, food, blankets, the starstone Ilari had given Jace. Everyone moved fast. Without panic, they had done drills before. Just in case this day ever came. Then it happened. The ground shook softly. A low hum came from above. Jace looked up and saw it. A black patrol ship shaped like a spear, flying low across the sky. "Hide in the lower chamber," shouted. Ilari grabbed the baby and ran, guiding the children down into the old tunnels. Jace stayed behind, locking the main door and covering it with rocks and plants. Then came the sound he feared most, the sharp whistle of a landing ship and the heavy boots of armored soldiers hitting the ground. 5 men in black suits approached the shelter entrance. Each one carried a rifle and wore a mask. Their leader held a scanner. "They're here," he said. "Heat signatures below." They tried to open the hidden door, but it was sealed tight, so they placed a small explosive. Jace watched from behind a wall. Holding a steel rod in one hand, he couldn't let them go down there. The door exploded open with a loud bang. Dust flew everywhere. The soldiers rushed in, and Jace attacked. He hit the first one hard, knocking him to the ground. The others turned and fired. But Jace moved fast. He fought like the soldier he once was, strong, angry, and full of purpose. But he was just one man, and they were many. One of them hit him in the ribs. Another slammed him into the wall. Blood ran from his lip. His arm was badly bruised. Then he heard it, the soft cry of the baby from below. The soldiers heard it too. Jace pushed forward with everything he had. He grabbed one of their weapons and fired it at the roof, making rocks fall and block the entrance to the tunnels. Dust and debris filled the air, cutting off the soldiers from reaching the children. "Fall back." The leader shouted, "We'll come again with a drill unit." The soldiers pulled out, carrying their wounded. Their ship flew away, leaving only silence. Jace fell to his knees, breathing hard. He had bought them time, but not safety, below. Elari helped the children stay calm. She held her baby sister close, her heart racing. She didn't know what had happened abovely, that Jace wasn't there yet. After some time, Jace crawled down through a side tunnel. He was hurt, bleeding, but alive. When Elari saw him, she rushed to his side. "You're hurt," she cried. Jace smiled weakly. "I'm fine," he said. "We're all fine, right?" The children nodded. Some with tears in their eyes, they helped him sit down, wrapped his wounds, and shared their water with him. For the first time, the protector became the protected. Elari sat beside him and whispered, "You saved us again." Jace looked at her and shook his head. "No," he said. "You were the one who stayed strong. You led them in that dark chamber, filled with fear and dust. Something changed again. Not just trust now, but unity. They were no longer just one man and some alien children. They were a family that refused to be broken. But they knew this wasn't over. The council would return, and next time, they would bring more than just soldiers. They would bring the full weight of fear, power, and control. And Jace knew they had to act first. They had to make the galaxy hear their story. Because the world would never change unless someone was brave enough to speak. The air inside the shelter felt heavy after the attack. The children stayed close to each other, quiet and afraid. Elari sat beside Jace, gently changing the bandages on his arm. He winced as she tied the cloth, but he didn't complain. The stone walls around them were safe for now. But Jace knew hiding forever wasn't the answer. He had trained for war, not for silence, and now he needed a different kind of weapon. Not a gun, not a bomb, a voice. Elari looked up at him, her eyes tired but full of fight. "They'll come back," she whispered. Jace nodded. "Yes, and next time, it'll be worse." They sat together in silence, the baby sleeping in Elari's arms. Then Jace had an idea. "We need people to see," he said. "We need the world to know you exist." Elari frowned. "But who will listen to us?" she asked. "We're just broken kids." Jace shook his head. "No, you're survivors," he said, "and people listen when survivors speak." The next morning, Jace sent a message to someone he hadn't spoken to in years. Her name was Kaylin, a human journalist known for exposing dark truths. She once filmed a secret military strike and shared it with the galaxy. She had power, and Jace hoped she still had heart. He used an old comlink and recorded a message. "Kaylin, this is Jace," he said. "I need your help. There are children, here alien children, abandoned and hunted. They're not criminals. They're just kids. If you want to see the truth, come to these coordinates. Bring a camera, but no police." He sent the message and waited. One day passed, then another. Finally, a small, unmarked shuttle landed on the edge of the hill. Kaylin stepped out, her camera hovering beside her. She wore dark glasses and a long coat. When she saw Jace, her eyes widened. "You look like hell," she said. "I feel worse," Jace replied, then added, "Follow me." She entered the shelter slowly, filming everything: the broken beds, the tiny meals, the star drawings on the walls. Then she saw the children, thin but alive, and Elari, holding her baby sister and standing tall like a leader. Kellen asked questions. Elari answered in soft but clear words. She spoke of the market, the hunger, the cold nights in the junkyard. She told the story of how Jace came with food, how he stayed when everyone else turned away. Then Kaylin asked, "Why do you think people should care?" Elari looked straight into the camera. "Because we are not garbage," she said. "We are not things to be thrown away. We are children, just like human children. We cry, we feel, we want to live." Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. "You say you care about life, about peace, But you let us starve in the shadows. Please, see us, she whispered. Help us. Kaylin didn't speak after that. She just nodded and turned off her camera. She left the shelter without another word. The next day, the video went live. It was shared across networks, planets, and space stations. People watched as Ilari told her story. They saw the baby in her arms, the sadness in her eyes, and the strength in her voice. The galaxy reacted. Some called it lies, others called it proof of failure. But many cried. Many asked how they could help. Donations came in food, clothes, medicine, even credits. More humans came, quiet and careful, bringing supplies. One nurse offered to stay and treat the children. Another brought books and solar lights. The shelter began to change. No longer just a hiding place, but a small beacon of hope. The Trade Council was furious. They called Jace a traitor. They called the children illegal squatters. But it didn't matter anymore, because now, too many people were watching. Too many people cared. One night, Jace sat with Ilari outside the shelter. The stars above were bright, clear, almost peaceful. You did it, he said. You made them listen. Ilari smiled gently. It was your idea. She replied. No, Jace said. It was your voice. She held her baby sister close and looked at the sky. My mother once told me, silence is the enemy of life. I didn't understand then, she said, but now I do. That night, the children slept safely. The shelter was quiet, but not from fear, from peace. For the first time in a long time, there was no sound of hunger, no sound of crying, only dreams, and in those dreams, the stars above didn't feel so far. Weeks had passed since Ilari's voice echoed across the stars. The shelter was no longer a secret. It had become a symbol, not just of survival, but of what could happen when kindness was stronger than fear. More people arrived, not in crowds, but in quiet waves. They brought blankets, books, clean water, and soft clothes. Teachers came to read to the children. Doctors arrived to check their health. Even an old musician visited, playing soft tunes that made the children smile and sway. Jace watched it all with quiet pride. He no longer needed to fight alone. Others had joined him. Not with weapons, but with open hearts. Ilari had changed too. Her steps were more confident. Now, her voice steadier. She helped organize the supplies, made meal schedules, and cared for not just her baby sister, but every child like they were her own. Her baby, once sick and silent, now laughed loudly. She called Jace Ba. It meant safe one in Ilari's language. One day, a group of traders from another colony arrived. They were not part of the council. They had seen the video and wanted to help build something more permanent, a proper home made of real walls and solar roofs. Jace stood beside Ilari as they showed the blueprints. She nodded quietly, listening to every detail. He looked at her and said, "You're in charge now, you know." Ilari turned to him, surprised. "But you built this?" she said. Jace smiled. "I just opened a door," he said. "You walked through it, and you carried everyone with you." Ilari didn't speak for a moment. Then she reached into a small cloth bag and pulled out a handful of shiny coins. They weren't much, just trade credits she had earned helping organize the supplies. She placed them in Jace's hands and whispered, "This is for the milk." Jace blinked. "What milk?" he asked, confused. "The first day we met," she said, her voice soft but clear. "I asked for milk for my sister, and I said I would pay you back when I'm grown." She looked at him and added, "I'm not grown yet, but I want to start repaying you." Jace laughed gently, his eyes warm. He closed her hand around the coins and said, "Ilari, you paid me back a long time ago. The moment you stood up and made them listen, that was the real payment." Ilari didn't argue. She just smiled, and it was the brightest smile Jace had ever seen on her face. The new home was built within a month. It wasn't big, but it was beautiful. Solar lights lined the roof, clean water flowed through pipes, and a real classroom stood beside the garden. Children planted vegetables, painted murals on the walls, and slept in real beds. They called it Hearthlight, a place where the forgotten could find warmth. Even humans from nearby cities started visiting, bringing their own children to play, bringing stories, games, and even laughter. It wasn't just a shelter anymore, it was a bridge between species. The council, of course, still hated it, but now they were afraid to act. Too many eyes were watching. Too many voices were ready to speak, and Alari had become one of those voices. She spoke at interplanetary gatherings, shared her story at school panels, and each time, she ended with the same words. Kindness is not weakness, she would say. It is the power to change the stars. One evening, Jay stood alone at the top of the hill. He looked down at Hearthlight, the glowing lights flickering like stars on the ground. Alari walked up beside him, silent for a moment, then said, "You never told me why you really helped that first day." Jace looked at the sky and replied, "Because I was tired of pretending not to care. I saw you holding your sister, and I knew. If I walked away, I'd never forgive myself." Alari nodded. "Then thank you for not walking away," she said, "and thank you for staying." Even when it got hard, he smiled and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You gave me a reason to stay," he said. "You gave me a family again." They stood in silence, the wind gently passing over them. Below, children laughed and ran, the sound echoing into the stars. A long time ago, in a crowded market, a starving girl had whispered, "Just milk for my sister, please." And now, that whisper had turned into a voice that changed the galaxy, not with fire, not with force, but with love and a promise kept.